All right, well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Lindy Arsenal, and I'm your host for today's webinar. I'm really excited for today's webinar because we're going to be hearing about submitting competitive Atlas Network grant applications. And I know that many of you on this call are partners with us and you submit grant applications on a regular basis. So we're excited to offer you this tool that will help you submit better applications, and hopefully we can help you out in that today. So here to walk us through this is one of our Institute Relation Managers, and this is Jack Shannon. So Jack is going to go through his presentation, and then at the end, he'll be answering all of your questions. If you do have questions for Jack come up during the presentation, just go ahead and enter them into that question and answer box that you see on the bottom of your screen, and we'll make sure to get to them at the end. So Jack, without further ado, over to you.
Sure, thanks Lindy, and hello to all. Thank you for joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedules to listen in on how to submit a competitive Atlas Network grant application. To introduce myself, for those of you who haven't met me yet, my name is Jack Shannon, as Lindy has introduced me, Institute Relations Manager here at Atlas Network. Why are we doing this webinar today? Well, I've been in your shoes. So I've worked for multiple nonprofit organizations, both as a recipient of grants and as an applicant. I recognize how difficult the process can be. Many foundations ask a variety of questions that can sometimes be confusing, tricky, and oftentimes they want different answers. So I wanted to clarify some of the questions that Atlas Network asks and to provide a little bit of insight as to what we're looking for in our grant applications. So we'll jump right into it. I give about 20 minutes of an overview, and then I'll be happy to answer your questions. So here's a brief agenda of what we're going to cover today. So I'll highlight just the grant programs that we offer here at Atlas Network and who is available to apply for those. Some of the requirements that we ask for throughout the application, including the outputs and outcomes section. For those of you who have completed Atlas Network grants in the past, you know that this is a very big part of the application. It's something that the reviewers take very seriously and look to have a better understanding of your proposal. The fourth section of today's webinar is going to be a few examples of how to answer the questions that we ask within the application. And lastly, I'll touch on some of the resources that we have available to our applicants, as well as some upcoming resources that we're going to launch shortly. So let's jump into it. These are the 10 Atlas Network grant programs that we offer to our partners and non-partners. We have all of this information available on the website. I highly encourage you to go and read through the descriptions of these, to look at some examples of past projects and some of the information related to each of these projects. But I just wanted to highlight what is available to partners and what is available to non-partners. Obviously, our partners are allowed to apply for international student grants, the think tank startup programs, as well as the translation grants. But I wanted to sort of show that delineation between what is exclusive to our partner organizations and what is available to a broader audience. So those are the 10. Just to give you sort of a quick overview of those projects available to applicants. So here's a chart that breaks down some of the dollar amounts that we ask for, whether or not non-partners are eligible, and the deadlines. I just wanted to remind everyone that most of our grants, other than the Lights, Camera, Liberty program, are available quarterly. So these dates, we will continue to remind you, but these dates are February 15th, May 15th, August 15th, and November 15th every year. Those are the 4 deadlines. We highly encourage you to submit early if you have that option, but the better you can do to submit before those quarterly deadlines, the better for us. This will be available to you after the webinar, so I'll move on, but feel free to look at some of the amounts that we ask for and to identify those non-partner eligible programs. So I wanted to jump right into what an application looks like and what some of the answers that you can provide us are going to look like, so you can submit a competitive grant application without any red flags and making sure that you're putting your best foot forward and communicating your project effectively so that we can have a better understanding of what we're funding and what you're going to be able to accomplish through your projects. So the application point of contact and point of contact email, this should be the person in charge of the project. So not your CEO's email address. This isn't necessarily even the person applying. This is going to be the individual who's going to be our Atlas Network point of contact for anything related to the project, whether that be questions we have, reporting requirements, anybody that we need to talk to going on throughout the duration of the project. This is their name and email. Providing a concise and memorable name for your application. Here, my clever name for my imaginary project is Removing Barriers to Prosperity. This should be a very short phrase, something that helps us to remember what your project is. It should be quick and descriptive. No pressure here, but make sure that it's something that we're going to remember and that will summarize the project in an elevator pitch format. I also wanted to list out, these are again imaginary numbers, but the amount requested in the total project budget. Oftentimes this can be slightly confusing to applicants, so I wanted to clarify. The amount requested is obviously the grant that you are requesting from Atlas Network. So how much money are you asking from us? The total project budget being the entirety of the project with Atlas funding in addition to your other funding sources. So here, my imaginary numbers 5,000 and 18,000 represent a good ratio of the amount that we ask for and the total project budget. So always make sure that the answer to number 7 is larger than the answer to number 6, right? So this should be, again, every expenditure related to this project should be included in the total project budget. Moving on to outputs and outcomes. I mentioned this is a very important part of any application. And so I wanted to take a little extra time to summarize what we're looking for here, to try and clear up any confusion and to make sure that you all know what we are looking for in outputs and outcomes. So the outputs section is a specific quantifiable deliverable. So these are going to be the activities that you undertake. If we choose to fund this project, you receive the dollars from Atlas Network. What are you then going to do with that money? So here are some examples. They could be research papers, email campaigns, video production, writing op-eds, social media, hosting events. These are the actual activities that you and your organization are going to undertake to execute the project. Notice here that etc. is bolded and underlined. I don't want to limit your creativity. There are thousands of outputs that you all can include in a proposal. We obviously are surprised every quarter by what our partners come up with and are proud of the variety of programs that we fund here at Atlas Network. So just wanted to not stifle your creativity, to let you know that obviously this list can be very long and there are a number of outputs that you can include in your proposal. But I wanted to give you an idea of what we're looking for here. These are activities, these are research papers, these are the things you're going to do to execute your project. The outcomes are the results of these outputs. So once you have done your 5 things or your 3 things, what then are the goals that you have? So what is going to be the end result of all of these activities that you've listed out for us? These should be big goals. These should be ambitious goals, obviously achievable if possible, but we want them to be sort of your forward thinking. What would success look like? How can I define success for my team while making it as measurable as possible? So these are policy wins. These could be mentions in media, whether it be print or online. These are petition signatures, video views, individuals trained at events, new donors. Again, et cetera, being underlined and bolded. I don't want to limit your thinking around these outcomes. There are, again, thousands of options here, but I wanted to give you, again, sort of an example of what we're looking for at Atlas Network and how you can communicate best your goals for this project in the outcomes section. Be sure here to include your most ambitious goals, right? We want to see your moonshot, your champagne popping moment, as we often call it. Make sure to include your big goals in this section so that we know what you're trying to accomplish and the potential impact this project is going to have if we choose to approve your grant proposal. Here's what the outputs and outcomes section looks like in an application. Again, for those of you who have conducted and submitted applications for us in the past, you know this section well. Here is just a brief imaginary project that I threw together so that you can have a better understanding of what we're looking for. So again, the output section, as you can see, are quantifiable things that I'm going to do. If I received a grant from Atlas Network, I'm going to write a research paper. I'm going to send this research paper to lawmakers. I'm going to post on social media, host webinars, and host conferences for students, right? This is what I'm pitching Atlas Network on. This is my project's activities. The goals being in the outcomes section. So those are media hits and views on YouTube, participants at my roundtable event, student attendees at my conferences. These are my big goals for what I'm going to accomplish if I was to receive an Atlas Network grant. So again, make sure that these are your longer term goals and what you think are going to be the actual outcomes of this project. A few more questions that I wanted to include from our Atlas Network grant application form. For what purpose are you seeking funds? This can often be a confusing question for our applicants. So I wanted to clarify that this is a place to describe your project in detail. Tell us about the strategic goals, the broad overview of why you're conducting this project. Please don't use this space to talk about your past successes or why this is an important project. Obviously, if you're an Atlas Network partner, we know that you are conducting great activities on a daily basis. We're following your team's successes. We're aware of many of the projects that you've undertaken. This is a space for you to talk about this project specifically and to tell us exactly why this is going to be a success and why it's needed in your country or region. What's the ultimate goal for this project? This is one of our favorite questions as reviewers. We love going through number 3 to get a better understanding of your long-term goals and why you're pitching us on this project. This is the champagne popping moment. So what does that mean? That means to include an ambitious goal, right? So in your wildest dreams, if this project went smooth start to finish and everything went according to plan, what is that going to lead to? Is it a big national policy win? Is it your growth in audience? Are you going to become a much more impactful think tank? Are you going to bring new people into your network? Be ambitious here. We want you to be confident. We want to see your biggest goals and make sure that you're communicating exactly what you're trying to accomplish here so that we know what the potential for this project is when we're considering funding. These two are a little more straightforward, but I wanted to show you an example of what a good budget breakdown and a timeline would look like. So here I've written out just sort of bullet point format, right? So the clearest you can make it. We want to see a timeline, usually between 6 months and maybe 2 years is a good range of timelines for projects proposals. Here I have a year-long timeline, and I wanted to show you what that looks like, what the best way to communicate that to us is. As clear as you can make this, what are we going to do in month 1? What are we going to do in month 2? What are we going to do in month 3? All the way up to the end of the project. So it gives us an understanding of your thinking about this project, why the timeline's 12 months, what you hope to accomplish during that time. And this is the space to communicate that to us. For the budget breakdown, there's a few important things to consider here. We want to see the total project budget. So that number that we showed you earlier of the entire expenditures for the project start to finish, that should be listed out here in a little more detail. So it looks like an itemized receipt, right? These are all of your expected expenditures. So here I have a research paper is going to cost us $1,000, the video production costs, the staff costs, the conference fees to host an event. The other thing to note here is that we want you to identify the Atlas Network funding, what you are planning to use our dollars for, right? So this is $3,000 out of the $10,000 budget. You want us to cover video production and social media advertising costs. This is a space for you to show us your thinking around the project's budget, where you're going to be dedicating funds and why it's necessary for Atlas Network to support this project because you've identified these 2 expenditures for Atlas to support within the project itself. So your reward for sticking with me through this webinar so far, thank you for listening. Here are some tips and tricks. So I wanted to provide a little bit of insight to what we're looking for, some things that might not be advertised on our webpage, but nonetheless important when submitting an application. So I mentioned this earlier, but I wanted to provide a little bit of a mathematical equation here. So the amount requested should represent somewhere between 10 to 75% of your project budget. Obviously, this is a rough estimate. Feel free to propose what you feel is appropriate for your project. However, the reason I list this is we at Atlas Network want to be a significant part of a project without funding the entirety of said project. So while we want our applicants to feel as if we are supporting them and collaborating with them on this project, we want to have a stake in this project, but we don't want to be the sole funder. We want our partners to be identifying a variety of revenue streams, dozens of donors, right? We want you to be bringing in money from external parties to support this project to get to that 100% number. We don't want to have you be overly reliant on these grants to conduct your project activities. So I think 10 to 75% is sort of that golden range for funding. Timelines, I think 6 to 24 months is, again, a rough scale, but something to keep in mind. Longer term projects can often deter funding, as well as some of the shorter immediate projects that, again, would be heavily reliant on Atlas Network funds. So I think 6 to 24 months is a golden zone for a timeline of your proposal. I just wanted to remind you, be confident. Show us your best, brightest ideas, and make sure to include your ambitious goals. We want to see you taking honors courses, right? We'd rather you get a B in an honors course than to take Econ 101 and ace it. So be sure to include your ultimate goal in the outputs and outcomes. This is the space for you to show us exactly what you're trying to accomplish and be clear and confident in those goals. The more specific, the better, the more measurable, the better. And please put your best foot forward so you're not burying your ultimate goal within a paragraph or pages into the application where reviewers may have already made a decision by the time that they get to your 8th page. Put it out front, make sure that it's very clear and that we know exactly what you're trying to accomplish with this project. Participate in Atlas Network trainings. This is a shameless plug for Lindy and the training team. Obviously, we want to see our partners engaging with the network as much as possible, and participating in trainings is a great way for us to get to know you and vice versa, right? So it allows the Atlas Network team to get a better understanding of your organization's goals, of your project goals, of your issue areas that you work on, as well as, it's an opportunity for you to better understand the Atlas Network and what we're looking for, the types of projects we support, the types of partner organizations that we have in the network. This is a great way for us to get to know each other, and it never hurts to have your name at the top of a list when submitting an application. So please check out the Atlas Network training site and jump into any webinars or longer term courses that you would find helpful. Submit your application on time. This is a selfish tip and trick, but it's something that we take into consideration when reviewing applications. Mark those days down on your calendar. February 15, May 15, August 15, and November 15. They're the same every year. And every quarter, we like seeing applications submitted early and on time. I highly encourage you to submit early if you can. We do see that, and it is something that looks good on any application or any submission. So I just wanted to remind you of those dates and to submit on time. Lastly, ask me for help. I'm here to serve you and our partner network. I love speaking with our partners. I love working with partners on applications. It's part of my job. It's something that I want to be doing constantly throughout these review cycles. And I want to make sure that our partners have a good opportunity to submit the best application possible, and that we're able to see those applications in their best form, so that we're reviewing the project for what it is, we're seeing your ultimate goals, and we're able to best understand what you're pitching us on and why we should fund it. A few things not to do. Again, don't make the amount requested larger than the total project budget. It happens. Again, I wanted to try and clear up some of that confusion today. Make sure to, we're funding a portion of the project, right? We don't want to be funding something larger than the total project budget. That can often confuse the reviewers. Please, again, include details in your timeline and budget. We want to see a breakdown. We don't want to see this project is going to last 12 months and that's it. We want to see, what are you going to be doing month to month? 6 months in, you hope to have accomplished this. 9 months in, you hope to accomplish this. 12 months, etc. Please don't submit more than 3 applications at a time. This is obviously an issue for us as we receive hundreds of applications every quarter with very competitive grant programs and limited funding. We want to make sure that we're funding your priorities and not side projects that hope could get off the ground. 1, 2 a quarter, I think, is ideal. And I'd be happy to speak with you more about that as you're submitting. Please reach out to me if you have questions. Don't include any information unrelated to your proposal, right? We want to see a very detailed breakdown of this project and the activities that you're going to undertake. Outside of that, we're just distracting from the project itself. So try your best to keep it focused and narrowly focused on the project that you're pitching us on. Make sure to apply to the right grant program. Obviously, mistakes happen, and we're happy to deal with them as they come. But do your best to apply to the program that you feel best fits your project proposal, and you'll have a better chance at receiving funding. Lastly, just a few resources I wanted to hit on. This will be available to you after the webinar, so feel free to use these links. We have our grants page, which describes every project in detail. We have the Atlas Network training link, an FAQ page, which we are going to be updating soon. We're excited about that to share with our applicants. I'll be sending that around to those of you who do apply in the next few quarters. So feel free to check that out. We should have a comprehensive list of questions that we receive. So I'm excited to announce that, and we'll be sharing that with our partners once it launches. We have a few webinars available to you, including a webinar from my colleague, Eric Eppig, a guide to getting the most out of your partnership with Atlas Network. I highly encourage you to check that out. We also are going to be having an upcoming webinar on reporting and the reporting standards that we require from our partners. In addition to, there is an outputs and outcomes guide on our website that I highly encourage you to review while submitting applications to make sure, again, you're putting your best foot forward. With that, I will open it up to questions, and I appreciate your time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jack. We have some great questions coming in. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in.
Sure.
First question, if I don't achieve my outcomes on one project, am I still allowed to apply in the future for other projects?
Absolutely. That's a great question. The outcomes section is not a test, right? So this isn't a pass-fail project. When we review reports, obviously we love to see when our partners are successful at achieving their goals, right? But again, we want these to be very ambitious. We want to see your biggest, brightest ideas and your long-term goals for this project. If you fail to meet those, but we see that you tried and we see that you got part of the way there, you were good stewards of our dollars, you had some impact with this project and you attempted to reach those goals, that's what matters to us. And so if you fail to meet some outcomes, somewhat disappointing, but okay. And obviously, you should feel confident in applying again to future programs. Great question. And, we like to see the most ambitious goals possible. So, be confident. And if you don't reach those goals, that's okay. We can move on and try again as long as we feel confident in your mission and the activities that you did undertake.
Definitely. So kind of to go off of that a little bit, this year especially, we've had a lot of projects that have been derailed because of the situation in the world. So how do you work with applicants, when they have really ambitious goals that maybe include events that got derailed, and, how do we still achieve our outcomes in this situation?
It's a great question. Obviously, this year has been difficult for all of our partners and Atlas Network. I firstly want to say that I've been extremely impressed and inspired by our partners' ability to pivot during this difficult time. I know I can speak for the rest of my team when I say that, our partners constantly inspire us and motivate us to be better. The adaptation that our partners have undertaken to still achieve great impact during this difficult year has been, nothing short of impressive. So I want to thank you all for the work that you've been doing for Freedom this year. As far as reporting standards and falling short of outcomes because of the COVID-19 situation, the best thing to do in that situation is to come to our team as soon as you learn and as often. Please communicate to us as soon as you think there's a significant change in the activities that you're going to be undertaking. We want to know, and we want to work with you on either changing our reports, pivoting to another project entirely, or figuring out and brainstorming ways that we can still attempt to achieve those outcomes. So my recommendation is to use that email on the screen and to use the rest of my team to communicate those changes and potentially needing to change a future report. Obviously, we want you to stick to the plan as much as possible, but please communicate as early and as often as you can with us. We're here for you. We want to work with you to make sure that our dollars are going to the most impactful projects as possible. So I just encourage any partners who are currently needing to pivot as a result of the COVID-19 situation, reach out to me, reach out to my team, Casey Pfeiffer, Eric Eppig, Hunter Rausch, and Honey Crevallari, please, feel free to reach out to us, contact us with those changes, and we'll work with you to try and create the best project that we can.
Definitely. So next question is a great question. We have, does the Atlas Network team prefer innovational projects rather than traditional ones? Would you like to see some crazy creative thinking or research papers and traditional events?
That is a great question. And I cannot speak for the entire grants committee, which is made up of multiple staff and executive members here at Atlas Network. I can say that innovative projects do get us excited. Obviously, we like to see partners who are being creative, who are thinking of new and innovative ways to have impact in their country, but we still fund research projects every quarter. So, I think it is a great question to pose, and I think it's a balance that you need to strike as an applicant. But feel free to pitch us on innovative projects. We're not afraid of new and exciting ideas, and we encourage our partners to be entrepreneurial and to come up with new and innovative ways to have impact. So great question. I don't have a clear answer for you. I want to see both. So let's see one traditional and one innovative from every partner this next quarter.
Definitely. So our next question is, a lot of the screenshots you showed us were for maybe a specific project, and we had a very specific timeline, specific budget. If I'm applying for startup funding or general funding, what would I put in those categories of maybe outputs and outcomes, timeline, budget, all that stuff?
Sure, it's a good question. As a general rule of thumb, we want to see specific projects. So, the more detail you can provide, the better. However, if you are applying for startup funding, which can oftentimes be a general support request, I understand that you're not going to have specific details for an individual project, but you do have some goals. So if you receive this general support funding, what is that going to enable your organization to achieve? Is it more research projects? Is it going to be a greater reach on social media? Try to include as many measurable goals as you have as a team. Obviously, your business plan should include these goals, as well as your organizational structure, going forward over the next year. So again, be as specific as you can. We like to see specific projects so we know exactly what we're funding, what our money is going toward, so that we can be good stewards of our donor dollars. But for the general support requests within Think Tank Startup, please include sort of your year-long organizational goals. So if we achieve or receive this support, we're going to be able to achieve these 5 goals over the next year.
Definitely. So our next question is it preferable to apply, to different grants or maybe, different quarters with the same project, or do you like to see variety in those? What do you think about continuity projects and applying with those over and over?
Sure. A question that I receive personally very often, and something that I have addressed with partners in the past. My recommendation is between quarters to reach out to me. So if you are rejected, but you think this is a great project, Atlas Network made a mistake here, I think this is going to change the world, reach out to me, ask for feedback. I can provide some detailed notes from the committee and from our review process that I can share with you. Usually it's about outputs and outcomes. It's about the timeline that you proposed, changing some of the language. Feel free to submit those again. You can ask me directly, is this something that is relatively within the realm of possibility and something that you would consider funding in the future? If I think it is, we'll work on ways to improve that application. We can look at a resubmission. I think 2 strikes is a difficult thing to come back from. Oftentimes we're then going to want to see a pivot to a new project. I think generally it is a good idea to be pitching us on something new every quarter. But if you think that you have an amazing project that you just didn't communicate properly and that there are ways for you to improve the application itself, I can work with you on that and give you some feedback so that you're applying again the next quarter with something improved, significantly improved, so that we can see the difference that you've made and better understand your goals. I think as a general rule of thumb, though, it is a good idea to be submitting something new every quarter if you are declined for a grant opportunity.
So off of that, what if you are approved for a grant opportunity and then you would like to get more funding for that same project? Maybe it's a longer term project. What do you think about that?
Sure, another good question and something that I've had to answer from our partners. We are open to the idea of providing funding for the same project over multiple quarters. However, it needs to be a fantastic project. So we're willing to do this if you had these amazing results, you've had a great impact. We see that in your grant report. You reported to us on time, right? We feel confident in your ability to engage with us, and we feel as if we're working with a partner. And we want to make sure that if we are funding these projects multiple times, that they are highly impactful. They've achieved the results that we thought that they would, and that you're growing, right? So if your goal was to reach 500 people with the first project, if you're submitting the same application later down the road, we now want to see you impacting 1,000 people, right? This project should be growing over time. You should be adapting to changes on the ground, adapting to the market response, and improving that application. So we're open to it, but make sure it's a really good one, and that we're going to be excited about funding this project again.
Definitely. Well, we are out of time for questions today, but I'd like to thank Jack so much for joining us. And Jack will be sharing his presentation after this, and so I'll have it all to you by the end of the day today. But make sure to keep an eye out on our website for future events, grant deadlines, trainings. Our Liberty Forum and Freedom Dinner is coming up very soon, so make sure you're registering for that. But that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, Jack, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you, Lindy, and thank you to everyone who joined us today. Looking forward to working with you on these grant applications in the future.